All right, what is up, guys? So today I want to do a special video. I kind of want to lay down on specifically bulking for any of you who are curious about wanting to bulk up or even wanting to know how I've been bulking. Well, this video is for you. If you just started lifting weights, I would say definitely go in for bulk, especially if you're a skinny person like me. I was a very skinny guy when I started out, and for me it's not hard to show out striations or a low body fat because my genetics count for that stuff. So if you kind of have your genetics aligned like that, I would say bulking would be really good for you because you'll be able to obtain a lot more muscle mass, but at the same time, since genetically you have these traits, even gaining a lot of muscle, you're gonna still look very vascular. Well, like me, I mean, I'm pretty vascular despite eating the amount of things I do eat. It is common for people to immediately want to look very shredded or let's say aesthetic. It depends on your reason, right? Like in your personal objectives, but I would say if you want to be a bodybuilder or get muscle, you're not gonna do that much in a cut. No. Cuts are mostly done so that you could present the muscles you've grown so far in a lower body fat. But especially if you just started for a year or two, showing a cut, even if you haven't done a bulk yet, you're not gonna, even if you have really, really good genetics, I don't think you're gonna look so crazy in a cut. So that's just based on my opinion, right? That's based on my opinion, and also just talking more about fundamentally, also by numbers, I definitely do believe that, especially for men, you should get into a bulk if you want to get muscular. The thing about bulking, which is something that I didn't understand for the first 4 months when I started lifting, I didn't get the whole point of bulking and cutting. I was the person that just thought, eat whatever I had around me and not track macros, not track calories, not track protein, carbs, fats. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was just basically eating what my mom gave me every single day for lunch. And that, that I was at maintenance level around there at a lower body fat too. Yeah, at a lower body fat. Now, I mean, depending on each person's mom, my mom's very health oriented, so I am lucky on that. I wasn't eating garbage or any of this sort of stuff. So that's just another, it's because it's kind of a fact. That's another reason why I looked the way I did in the first 4 months. But when I started lifting weights on September of 2024, I got into a bulk on January 15. And at that time, I remember I started taking, I have all this stuff noted down. The amount of calories that I first started taking to get in the bulk was 2,452 calories. Yeah. And it was 2,524 calories, 152 grams of protein, 321 grams of carbs, and 70 grams of fat. At that time, I was weighing, like exactly when I just started doing that on the first day, I was weighing around 132 pounds on body weight. When I first started lifting weights, I was weighing 120 pounds. So that's already a 12-pound increase in about October, November, like about 4 months. Yeah. And ever since I started the bulk, right now I weigh 150 pounds. So I've gained right around 18 pounds of body weight since I started the bulk. And I will tell you, and I'm kind of doing this sort of long introduction because it does account to what I'm going to explain later. Like, I fucked up so many times in this bulk, you don't even know. I've gone up and down. I've made so many mistakes that seem so clear to me right now, but it didn't back then. because I just had a lot of ignorance. I didn't understand it so well. I capped at the same weight for 4 months straight, and I didn't do anything about it. I thought it was one thing. It didn't turn out to be that one thing. I thought it was the other thing, and it wasn't that other thing. So it was just kind of back and forth. I didn't have anyone telling me this stuff and educating me on it in real life. And so that's kind of what I don't want for you guys. Now, I will tell you though that if you're gonna do a bulk for the first time, it's impossible to not make mistakes. I mean, you're gonna make very dumb mistakes on things that will seem so clear to you in the future. But you have to make them to understand, right? To learn. And so yeah, just don't be afraid. Just because eating is so, in my opinion, having a diet is way more harder than training hard. How long are you in the gym? Usually some people could be in the gym for an hour to 2 hours. But when you're in your house or anywhere outside the gym, I mean, that's pretty much, I mean, if you sleep 7 hours, that's already, 17 hours left? And then if you go to the gym for 2 hours, that's already like 15 hours. So you have basically 15 hours of doing anything else. And so it's very easy to cheat on your diet. It's very easy to not eat as well. Yeah, just basically not be in this like straight line what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm gonna try my best to give you guys tips that can help you avoid as much as that as possible. Not that that stuff is not gonna happen, but that you can avoid. Like here's what I will tell you. If I was much more consistent in my diet since I started, I would be way more bigger right now. Yeah, I would be way more bigger right now. But that goes to show that bulking is so effective. Even if you don't do it so great, let's say like how I did it. But yeah, enough talking. Let's get down to, I'll show you what I was doing. So, because I'm plant-based, so I've been plant-based for many years. I've bulked literally just in a plant-based diet. What I ate before was literally rice and beans and maybe some greens, right? Like salad or stuff just for micronutrients. But my main macro sources, quote unquote macro sources, was just rice and beans, and that was it. I wasn't even eating tofu, to be honest. And that was for lunch. So I would like beans and rice. I didn't eat much brown rice because I noticed for me, it's just harder to eat a lot of brown rice, but I was eating mostly jasmine rice, and I still do till today. Yeah, just black beans. Now, why did I do that, right? Because that sounds so mundane and I guess very oversimplified. I did that because in my entire life, I've always eaten that rice, beans, chicken, rice, beans, whatever, rice, beans, meats, like, etc. I wasn't always plant-based. I was plant-based 5 years ago, not that long ago, but that's why I was eating that way. And it worked pretty well because, yeah, from January it was 2,500 calories. Then in like the span of, I remember on March, I weighed myself and I was weighing around 140 pounds. Yeah. So I gained 8 pounds in 2 months or so. Yeah, 2 months. But then after, so that happened. And then April came by, and now in May, I kept doing the same thing, but over the course of March till May, I just stayed at the same weight. And then during late May, I started surplusing. So I hit a plateau for the first 2 weeks. I didn't see any weight gains as I did from February to March. And so that's when I started to increase my calories by 200. So on April, I was taking like 2,700 calories? Yeah. And from the course of another two weeks, I plateaued again on weight. When I'm saying plateauing, I'm talking about the weight. Like the weight doesn't change anymore. When I was plateauing, I then increased the calories by probably 300 or no 200. So I was taking by early May, 2,800 calories, 2,800 or 2,900. Yeah, that's what I was doing. And so that's what was going on. My idea there was like, okay, I'm just gonna eat the same thing until something happens. And so when my weight either dropped, so if my weight dropped by 2 pounds in 1 week, that's when I did a much more aggressive surplus. Like I probably would have done 300 calorie surplus or 400 calorie surplus each day. But if my weight stayed the same, I would do 200. Yeah, I would do 200. Now, what would I specifically increase? I would be increasing the carbs. That's what I was doing. I wasn't increasing, let's say, so much the protein. I mean, over the course of January till May, I did gain muscle mass, obviously, and especially when you first start something in a bulk, your gains are pretty much spiked because your hormones like get into action a lot more quicker, and so things just activate a lot more easily compared to being in a longer bulk for 8 months to 9 months. It gets slower. But over that course, I gained probably a good muscle mass. And so my protein, the grams that I was taking in protein was getting higher. At the time when I started surplusing, I surplused on carbs and fat. Carbs and protein. On May, I must have been taking 168 grams of protein. So I wasn't taking body weight to protein ratio. So, you know, for every pound of body weight, you would eat 1 gram of protein. But I was likely doing 20 extra grams in protein. So if I weighed 142 pounds or 144, I'd be eating 164, 166 grams of grams of protein. Yeah. And I slightly increased the fat, just not so much. The thing that you need to understand too is when it comes to calories, there's only 3 components. It's protein, carbs, and fat. Fats is what's gonna take majority of your calories. So if you eat something that has 10 grams of fat, the difference from 10 grams of fat to 10 grams of protein to 10 grams of carbs, those 10 grams of fat have probably double the amount of calories compared to the carbs. Yeah. And let's say the level of usability when it comes to fat, when you want to use it in the gym, is not so reliable compared to carbs, because fats, if we're talking about in gym sense, like in bodybuilding sense, fats are more productive in terms of recovery rates. So you don't need a huge amount of fat to recover. You just need a certain amount. That's why fats weren't a thing for me to increase. It was mostly the carbs, because I got stronger and my muscles were getting bigger and I was training harder, because your muscles adapt. So if you train harder with intensity, you definitely need to increase the carbs. Yeah, so that's what was basically going on. Over the course in the surplus, like let's say by May, I remember, because I kept plateauing, I was like, okay, let me change the diet a bit. So I was still eating rice and I was still eating beans, but now this time, because I had to add in more grams of protein, that's when I started eating more tofu. I was eating the extra firm, and to be honest, I prefer this one, the soya. I ate a different brand at that time. It didn't have as much protein compared to this one. Let's say protein compared to other measurements like fat to carbs. For every 91 grams of this tofu, you get 14 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbs, and 7 grams of fat, which has about 1.5 grams of saturated fat. Yeah. But this was, let's say, This and this are still, like, since May until now, these are mostly my main sources of protein. And it's very low in fat. So that's why I pretty much bulked at the senses of this. Like, I literally bulked on lean protein sources like tofu. I didn't eat things with a lot of saturated fat or fat in general. That also ties in why I have to increase the calories more, but we'll get into that. Now, when it was May, this is when I started plateauing a lot more. When it was late May, I went from 3,600, like, it was a big jump. Like, in May, I made a huge change. It was kind of weird when I look back. I decided to do a huge jump at that time because I thought, like, my body keeps plateauing over and over and over again despite increasing 200 to 400. So I thought in my mind, like, fuck it, let's just increase by 700 calories to 800 calories. Because at the time, I wanted to do a massive bulk. I wasn't looking to do a lean bulk or any of this stuff. I wanted to get a big bulk. I wanted to gain weight. And that's why I went from 3,200 to 3,800 in late May. Yeah. And again, same scenario, I just increased the carbs. So on January, I started with 321 grams of carbs. I would say roughly by late May, I must have been eating, I actually kind of remember, I think I was eating almost 500 grams of carbs by that time. Yeah. And then June comes by, and I went from 3,800 to 4,200. Yeah, so that's about a 400 calorie surplus. Now, why did I do that? This reason was a bit different because at the time I had a business that I still have it, but I just don't, let's say, do as much physical stuff with it now. But before, I had to do a lot of labor, and I was burning a lot of calories because I had to be outside in the sun, and I live in Texas. So, if you live in Texas, you know how hot it is in the summer, especially. And so, yeah, just doing that on top of my plateauing made it even harder to gain weight. So I made a plan where, okay, I'm gonna have to keep surplusing a lot now that I'm doing this stuff. And so in 4,200 calories, at that time, I was taking 600 grams of carbs. Yeah. And in those moments, because that's when I started foaming, I looked, I had more quote unquote definition than right now, because right now I have more body fat, but I have more muscle mass right now. Yeah. At that time because that's when I just started, but over the course of a month, like, I gained a lot of muscle mass. I remember from June to July, I looked at the photos and I had I looked more beefier, a bit more thicker than before. I got a little bit more fatter. In fact, there's this one photo that I look like Winnie the Pooh, literally. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much been the course. And then unfortunately what happened too is, because I kept plateauing, yeah, even though I gained a lot of muscle mass, but this is where, from before, and I think about it, I had this, like, here's the thing, I had a goal. I wanted to weigh 165 pounds by the end of the bulk. And when I started the bulk, I originally wanted to bulk for 4 months. But then I realized on February that if I wanted to gain the muscle mass I wanted to and get the weight and get the body weight that I wanted to get, I needed to bulk a lot more longer. So I basically duplicated the amount of time. So I went from 4 months to 8 months. So I started from January. My end goal was by August. So August comes by, or it's close to August, and I'm nowhere near my body weight goal. I was weighing at that time 145 pounds early August. And I had about 20 pounds to 20 pounds to get to 165 pounds. So I was like, no. And that's where I wanted to get more education. So I decided in late July to get into Dorian Yates Academy. And they had their own nutritionist, or let's say dietitian, in the coaching. So I had my own personal coach. And for some reason, I don't know why they did this. I do know why, but it wouldn't be the approach I would do personally. They decided, even though despite I told them that at the time I was taking 4,200 calories, they told me, we're gonna put you at 3,200 calories, because I told them my situation. I kept plateauing. I was staying at the same weight. And so my coach decided to drop me by 1,000 calories simply because he didn't believe me. He didn't believe I was taking those amount of calories. And so obviously my weight dropped by 3 pounds. And when it dropped by 3 pounds in a week, I was like, fuck, like that's stupid. So yeah, at the time I got into this thing where they were giving me a diet that I had to eat, but I was not eating that at times. And so I was kind of eating what they were giving, and I was eating what I was previously eating. And unfortunately, this is where my consistency lacked a lot. And ever since that happened, I've had to get control of that consistency, because I was throwing around loops like whether it was my training, whether it was specifically physical activity, whether it was my own metabolism, like all these reasons, right? I mean, if you've bulked before, you've probably heard of all these things that seem kind of amateur, but I was thinking at the time, because I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, what is wrong with my metabolism? I keep plateauing, my base rate is going up each time. And so I thought like they were reasons outside. So instead of brainlessly increasing the surplus as I was doing months ago, I just decided to not do that and eat the same thing. I have no idea why I did that. And I did that till late September. Yeah, late September. And by late September, that's when I realized like, no, I need to get retracked. So that was the biggest calorie surplus I've done. I don't eat as much as I did from that point. Like early October, that's when I was eating a lot. I was eating a lot at that time. I was eating almost 4,900 calories, about 180 grams of protein, 650 grams of carbs, 140 grams of fat. And I think in the summer, I must have been eating like 90 grams of fat. So I increased it by 50 grams of fat on September. Yeah, it was like, I just gave no shits at that time. I was like, fuck it, like let's just, because I came from all that bullshit that they were giving me. And I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And I just increased the fat a lot, because I was like, I just want to get to 165 pounds. So I was very desperate. Yeah. And now, I'm right now at this moment eating, well, let me actually explain the facts, because now that I'm saying this video and I'm explaining my errors and all these sort of things, what I eat for breakfast right now, as of today, is I get frozen blueberries, 140 grams of frozen blueberries. I get 1 scoop of this protein, and this has about 30 grams of protein for 41 grams of the scoop. It has 3.5 grams of fat, 5 grams of carbs. So that's 30 grams of this. The blueberries, I don't think blueberries have protein. It's mostly carbs. It's probably around like, what, 20 grams of carbs, 22 grams of carbs. Not even, not that much. It's like 15 grams. And that has about 90 calories. So that's 90 calories. This is 170 calories, which is about 260 calories. So bear with me, I'm doing quick math. And then I eat in oats about roughly 60 grams. So in here, for every 40 grams of oats, there's about 150 grams. So if we take 150 plus 75 is 225 calories. Yeah, so 225 by 260, how much is that? 485 calories. Yeah. What else? Yeah, that's basically it. And there's about 27 grams of carbs and 5 grams of protein. So let me think. 485 in calories. And to add on to this, and I want to explain something. For the past 3 weeks, I've actually stopped being plant-based. Yeah, I stopped being plant-based. But even when I increased to 4,900 calories, I was just eating this, rice, tofu, and beans. And I was basically repeating lunch and dinner. So I was eating the same thing here with this. Now, my fat source, because I was taking a lot of fat, how did I get to 140 grams? I was basically using those fats from the olive oil in the cooking, and I was using it with avocado and extra. So yeah, that's what I did. But since 3 weeks ago, I stopped being plant-based. And the main reason for that was because I did a trip once, and in that course of that trip, I accidentally ate something animal product, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. And I thought in my mind, like, for emergency situations, if I don't have any protein in my house, I'm just gonna eat meat, because I rather eat meat than eat, I honestly rather eat meat like as a meal source than eating protein powder, or let's say taking protein powder, or anything that doesn't have any like sort of whole foods effects onto you. Because if you want to especially build muscle, I definitely recommend you to rely more on actual food sources. Like don't be eating bar junks, don't be eating box junks. Like eat actual food. Get rice, get chicken breasts, you know, and get beans or whatever thing that you can get for carbs, fats, and protein. Yeah. It doesn't have to be rice, tofu, and beans. I just wanted to show you guys that because I mostly see food right now as, okay, that's my carbs, that's my protein, that's my fat. That's simple. That's all I need to know. I eat it like this because I've ate like that my whole life. So I recommend you to start your bulk based on how you've always eaten, because anyone can give you a diet right away, but I'm telling you, like, look, if I were you, I'd rather eat in a way that I would continuously eat, because dieting is all about consistency. It doesn't matter how many grams of protein something has or whatever, if you're not going to be consistent with it. You can be eating 3,000 calories one day or another day 3,200, but what does it matter if you don't continuously eat like that for the next 2 months or for the next 3 months? So that's why I highly suggest you to just eat the things that you've always eaten, right? Now, of course, with that being said, you shouldn't eat, like if you always eat in like Burger King or McDonald's, well, that's obviously you shouldn't eat like that. You know, I mean, unless if you want to do a Lee Priest bulk. I don't do that shit though, because it's not healthy. You get very big, but when you do the cut, it's gonna be such a pain in the ass to bring that fat down, unless if you're taking Winstrol, because Winstrol reduces the water and all this bullshit. But if you're a natty, if you're natural, I don't recommend you to do it, and it's also bad for your health. Your insulin goes up like to the moon, and you know it's your hormones go to shit too. And so yeah, I recommend you to eat the things that you've always eaten, so, especially something that you kind of think like you brainlessly eat. Like you can eat something like that even when you felt like eating something else. I don't know. It's just something that you just can eat all the time. Yeah. At first, it's It depends on personality. For me, it wasn't so hard because I don't think I'm such a big food person. I don't really get so emotional when I eat food. Like I don't think like, oh, this is super tasty. This tastes like shit. I just eat the food because I'm hungry. So if you're the same way, you're not gonna have much of a problem with the bulk. If you're not, well, you're gonna have a bit of a challenge, but you need to understand that like consistency, it's all about consistency, and it's all about numbers. I will tell you though that there are some people that tell you this protein source is better, this protein source is better, this carb source is better. None of that stuff means anything if you're not consistent. So yeah, that's what I would just want to tell you. Anything else from after that, when you look at the mirror, whatever, it's genetics. Some people are gonna look really good, even if you think their diet is really bad compared to yours, but don't shit on them. They just have good genetics. Yeah, they have really good genetics. I mean, that was the case for Lee Priest. Lee Priest was eating McDonald's mostly every single day and eating a bunch of bullshit, and he looked like a freak in his bulk, in his cut. And you know, I mean, I have a friend that kind of says it like, that's just how the cookie crumbles, you know? It's just, you can't do anything about that. That's genetics. But either way, I think you should always compare you to yourself. You shouldn't compare yourself to other people because it's just things that are beyond your control. But anyways, I kind of derailed there. You should eat things that you continuously eat. Now, let me get back to what I was saying about the calories. The reason why I'm not eating as much as I did last month was because when I was taking 140 grams of fat, I felt very sluggish in the gym. And also visually, I looked flatter. So I was like, hell no, I'm not gonna eat all this so that I look flatter and I don't look as vascular. So it's like you're killing two things at once. And so it doesn't make any sense. So I was like, no, I'd rather reduce the fat. Weight gains are gonna be a little bit slower, but I've noticed what my limits have been. But yeah, it's what I'm gonna keep repeating, because I kind of talked a whole story of how I started and what I've been doing right now. But the conclusion to this that I wanna give you is what I was saying, consistency in eating, definitely meal plan. That's something that fucked me up. I did not meal plan at all. I started meal planning recently. I started meal planning. In fact, I'm not even consistently meal planning right now. So that's like, you know, that's shame on me. But that's what I told you. I mean, I have not been consistent with this, but I've let's say eaten at least majority of my meals and it's done well. But I'm telling you this, that you just will look better if you're consistent. I would definitely look better right now if I was way more consistent. I guarantee you that. I'd look freakish right now if I was consistent since day one. But yeah. And so how can you be consistent? Eat the same things, right? What I said. That's one. Two, meal plan. I know it's a pain in the ass to meal plan, especially if you've never dieted before. It's so goddamn annoying that you have to do it once, but it's worth it. It is worth it, believe me. Just have one day where you're gonna get the rice, like in this case, the beans and the tofu. Put all the carbs in one pot, put the protein in one pot, put the fats in this place, cook it up, and it may take you, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and maybe you can have your meal for one week. And that's very important because what I used to do at the times, because I would be very hungry, I sometimes wouldn't eat first my meals. And so because I did that, by the time my meals were cooked, got out of the fridge, put it into a pan, put the oil, do all these sort of things, put the condiments. And when I sat down to eat it, it would be harder, a lot more harder for me to eat it, and it took longer. And I didn't do this often, but there would be just a little bit of times where I would leave 10% left of food in the plate and I would just throw it away because I just could not eat more. Yeah, that's where it's That's why I recommend to meal plan, because if you have your meals in the fridge, you take it out, especially if you're in an emergency. You know, life happens. You have to go to A to B to Z. Just take that shit out, man, and just put it in the microwave. I mean, it's better to eat that in the microwave than doing that other stuff that I was saying. Because you want to be consistent. It's all about consistency. If you eat like that every single day, it's gonna show up in your body. You're gonna look bigger. You're gonna look better. You're gonna look crazy. It's gonna be better for you. So that is something I should do. I started doing that 2 weeks ago, but I just got lazy. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I kind of like to film myself, because it's kind of like I have to step my game up a bit. Yeah, but I definitely got bigger, because that's the thing. Why do I keep talking about consistency? Because I've noticed that if I have been consistent at times, because I've been consistent since I started the bulk. There has been several times where I did that exact same thing for 3 weeks straight, and I definitely got bigger. But once I stopped being as consistent, the whole bigness started slowing down. And so yeah, I just know that that's a fact. I know if you do that, that's what's gonna happen, because that's what happened to me. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Now, let's talk about something an extra. Because I kind of want to debunk a few things that maybe some people talk about. Well, let's talk about cardio. Me personally, I've never really done cardio since I did the bulk. And I mean, it's not like I look at the mirror and, you know, I have a flat stomach. I mean, that's not even the point of the bulk. If you're gonna do a bulk, you should definitely be aware that you're gonna get a belly and your waist is gonna get thicker. But for me, like I'm perfectly fine with that, because I know I'm bigger. Like my chest is bigger, my arms are bigger, despite there's a bit more water in it. But I know that I'm doing this to gain more and more and more muscle, that maybe by the time if I want to do a cut, my waist to shoulder ratios are gonna be way bigger. Yeah, so I would say adopt that sort of mindset, because it's a bit more productive. But for cardio, I don't know. I've never really done it. Maybe if I did do it, I would look a bit more vascular. Yeah, my waist would not be as thick as it is right now. I mean, my waist is about 32.5 inches. It's not so big, but cardio probably would have put it at 31 or something. But it depends, because I had these problems. So I don't know about you guys, but personally, like if I put more things in my brain, like tasks to do, the more of a chance I'm likely gonna fuck up in that whole plan. So that's why I believe in simplicity, like that KISS rule. Just keep it simple as possible. Just keep it simple. If you want to do cardio, do cardio. If you don't want to do cardio, I don't see a huge problem with that. Especially if you're starting off. Now, if you've bulked the second time and third time, like I know if I'm gonna bulk, like the next bulk I'll do cardio. Yeah, because I know a lot of things now. I'm ready for that next bulk, that I'm not gonna do all these mistakes, so my brain isn't so convoluted by all these information. But if you can handle that sort of stuff for the first one, then yeah, do it. You'll get a bit of a smaller waist. My general issue was that like I didn't do much cardio because I didn't want to burn the calories. Now, of course, what I'm saying, if you burn the calories, because this is what people say a lot of the times, that if you use cardio for bulking, one of the benefits from that is that you're more hungrier. I don't think that's exactly the case. And that's what I want to debunk. Not really. It depends. If you're very aware of cardio and you understand what you're supposed to do there, then yeah. But I just think let's say the work to benefit ratio is not so extreme as people say it is. Not really. I think you honestly get a shorter waist, or let's say aesthetic look, if you just genuinely train harder in the gym. You do more sets, you do more volume. Obviously, you lower the carbs when you get to the cut. So yeah, and there's been several, like I'm not the only guy who thinks this way. There's many big bodybuilders that did it like this. One of them is Marcus Rule. If you search up Marcus Rule, if you don't know him, he was a freak of nature in bodybuilding. He was massive, and he wasn't just massive as a gut belly. That guy was very aesthetic, especially for his size. He had striations, he had muscle shape definition everywhere, and he didn't do any cardio. But again, that's just based on body type. I'm not saying that cardio is bad or good. You just really have to say. I mean, Sam Solik does a lot of cardio. It works well for him, and that's perfectly good. That's really good that he does cardio because it works well for him. But let's say Tom Platz. Tom Platz did not do cardio. Neither did several ones, but Tom is another example. Tom, I mean, obviously, if you've seen the way how Tom trains, Tom trains like the devil. Tom trains with such crazy intensity. There's still never been a bodybuilder till today that trains like that. That's why he's such a legend. But yeah, that's for the cardio part. Now, what's another one? Oh yeah, protein sources. So this actually isn't talked about a lot, and I like to kind of explain it based on my perspective. I know full well, at least for me, that I gain size eating lean protein sources. I don't have to eat protein sources that have a lot of fat, and that's just what works for me. It might not work for other people, but it worked for me. And I think because it's not that the protein got me hugely big. It did get me big, but it wasn't, I don't think, the main components. It was the carbs. It was the carbs because of the energy. Yeah, I think that's my opinion. I'm going to stand by that because I've gained a lot just doing that. Now, tofu is not the leanest source of protein. The leanest source of protein are actually more marine animals like whitefish and shrimp. Shrimp actually has a protein to fat ratio of 85:1. Like that's extremely high. Like that's almost no fat. For every 18 grams or something, every 18 grams of protein, you get 0.5 grams of fat. So, I mean, it's excellent for cutting. The only issue is the mercury. So, I mean, if you selectively look at shrimp and you know where it comes from and it's a reliable source, then give it a shot. Or it's the same thing with whitefish. Whitefish, I think, is about 25:1, still super high. Chicken breast is about 7.5:1, yeah. And then tofu is about 8.3:1. Tofu is the leanest source of protein before marine animals. So if you don't like seafood, yeah, if you definitely like whatsoever cannot stand to eat seafood, I'd recommend to eat tofu. Now, tofu is not a beginner's friendly way to eat, especially for a person who eats meat. It may taste very strange. I do recommend you to look at videos because, it's not that I cut this bag and I eat it like that, or it's not like I even cut it and I put it into the grill without anything. No. I literally season my tofu like if I season chicken. It's no different. If you seriously want to try tofu, one tips I could give you to put on condiments is put a little bit of salt, put a little bit of pepper, a little bit of paprika, a little bit of cumin, and a little bit of, if you have it, a little bit of nutritional yeast. And I will say too to add turmeric. Turmeric is excellent because it's an anti-inflammatory component, and you get something pretty tasty. Yeah, it's not gonna exactly taste like meat, but it's not gonna taste like shit. you know. Yeah. So that's what I would say. And look up videos, what I was saying again. If you can't stand that too, then do chicken breast. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I think I can, let me end it off like this because I already know that there's gonna be people commenting this and I'll just explain it. A lot of you are gonna think negatively about plant-based diets. I already know, even you looking at this. And I understand too, because there's a gigantic side, and especially in bodybuilding, there's a gigantic side of research and understanding of benefits and just general information about eating animal products. There is not so much when it comes to plant-based, but there's more of like the, let's say, generic views from a person who eats meats when they look at plant-based diets based on a few results. So look, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that either way. I'm not advising you to become a vegan. I'm not advising you to become plant-based. I'm not advising you to eat only fish or to, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not even advising much of this stuff for health reasons, to be honest. I'm just the only thing I'm doing is just explaining to get big and how I know I got bigger. So I'm just stating the facts. You can add the different health components in your own diet, but this is just the way how I eat, and it works well for me. I've been plant-based for 5 years. I haven't had any effects in my health yet, I know. So far, my levels are fine. I do blood work very often, and that's why I continue eating that way. The main reason why, this is why I said 3 weeks ago, I just stopped eating that way, was just for simplicity purposes. I'm not the same person as I was years ago, or the same person as I was a year ago. My body demands more protein. It demands more food. And the thing about eating plant-based is like plant-based by its nature has a lower dense of calories. Yeah, it does. But it's a very high fiber based of food. So that's one of the benefits. I don't think it's a bad try. You could try it out for a month for bodybuilding purposes. Yeah. If you want to do it for health, research that. Yeah, because it really depends on blood type. Yeah, blood type. Like a good example is my family, man. I'm the only person here in this house that eats like this. My sister eats meat, my mom eats meat, my dad eats meat, my other sister eats meat. I'm the only one that eats like this. Now, originally, before, my parents did eat like this, but they stopped because my dad just, same situation, his blood and stuff. But for me, naturally, I'm fine eating this way because I do physical activity too. But whatever, I'm derailing a little bit. Recommend you to research on that. But I would say the leanest sources of protein would be this extra firm of tofu, whitefish, specifically cod, shrimp, chicken breast, and there's a type of lean beef that's called eye of round. I recommend you to do that. That sort of size of beef is actually leaner than lean ground beef. In fact, lean ground beef is not lean at all if you compare it to chicken or if you compare it to whitefish. It's like not even in the same category, even less with tofu. So yeah, however, this is what I want to end it off. Even though chicken breast can be leaner than beef, it doesn't mean that can work for everyone. No, because I actually know a lot of people that can't even stand eating grains. Like if you're a person that naturally gets very bloated eating grains, this sort of way how I eat, it will not likely work for you. Yeah. Now, the biggest pitfall of why people get bloated with grains is because they put a fuck ton of condiments into them. Don't do that. And generally, like anything, especially for a diet, you want to keep it as condiment less as possible. Don't put too much condiments. And especially you want to be aware of what you're mixing into it. When you bulk for the first time, you're going to get gassy. Yeah, because you're eating a lot. You're eating more than your surplus, especially being the first time. So if it's your first time bulking, you're likely going to be gassy for the first month. You're going to have a lot of farts. You're going to fart everywhere. You're going to take a shit, do all this sort of stuff. But then after 2 months, your body gets used to it. And so it's all okay by that point. And I don't have a problem at all. In fact, right now, which is hilarious, right now, I fart less than I was before bulking. So, you know, that's where I kind of repeat about the condiments and stuff. You need to know what you're mixing in your foods. Because, yeah, that's where being simple-minded helps. But yeah, talking about bloats, this is a long video. This is longer than I expected, but I don't know, this is very informative. If you have digestive problems, I would recommend to get digestive enzymes. They help a lot. I have like pill versions, at least my sister does. I just take her capsules. I take about 2 before I eat, especially for a big meal. And it immediately sends me to the bathroom afterwards. Yeah, that's another thing. You're gonna be taking a bunch of shits when you when you bulk. You're gonna clean your digestive system so well after doing this, especially if you're putting not too much condiments into your own meals. But yeah, okay. I think I kind of wrapped up everything fairly well. I know I kind of went in loops a bit, but I try to explain everything as I could. I kind of had to remember a few things I was doing, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I did this specifically today because I'm gonna cut in a few days, so I was like thinking like, shit, I need to do this fast before I start cutting because I might do something different. Yeah, so good thing I did this today, not because I'm gonna cut probably, today's Tuesday, I'm gonna start the cut in 4 days, 3 days or so. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.